Christina, if no one else was, then I was a little bit provoked by the way that you said that maybe we should also change the way that we speak. And also the way that you actually say that we could also try this at home, or this is something that you also use with your kids. Fine, but would any of these people like to speak to their employees in a way that you usually would speak to children? Do you find their tone as being a little wrong, the way the tone is nowadays?
I think we spend too much time telling people off, and that doesn't necessarily increase their motivation to change their behavior. I'm not suggesting that we mix up our colleagues and the way that we treat teenage children. That doesn't necessarily work. But what we found is if you manage to honestly convey the sense, I care about you, and you can do that in a work setting, it is unusual and it might feel strange, but I'm sure that you actually do care. If you think about it, you do care. You don't, honestly, that's what we had up there. You honestly don't want to get your staff hurt. You don't want to, not only because you don't want to be involved, but if you manage to convey that on a personal level, people will find that easier to accept than just following the rules because the rules are set. And we certainly saw that that created a different kind of conversation than just, this is the rules and that's why.
But see, you do think in a different way, I think, than most people here, being a little bit more creative maybe, and then Charles comes in and he's a psychologist and he sees things differently as well. And it kind of leaves us leaving this room thinking, oh man, maybe we're doing everything wrong, and people here are actually trying to make a big difference. So how can you maybe give us some more things to... Is that an English word? To be more innovative. Do you understand that? To do things differently when we come home. Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that you're all doing things wrong. That's not the point. And I might be a little bit less cynic about what people can do than Charles. What you get if you invite psychologists is that the first thing that I tell you is the world is more complex than you thought. And there are no easy solutions. You can't stop there. Of course. My point was, and that's why I showed those two examples for the training interventions, is it will be all those little small things that we do on a daily basis that will make a difference. So it will be taking more care when you risk assess a plan, taking more time to actually anticipate what could go wrong and not just thinking about one thing that could go wrong, but going deeper into that. Practicing in a team setting to deal with unexpected situations. So I think the innovative bit is continue the good stuff that you are doing, but try to think more about what else could happen. My understanding is what happens at the moment is you do risk assessment, you've done risk assessment, you don't do it again. And my understanding of risk is it doesn't disappear because you've assessed it. So it will continue to be there. It is this dynamic thing. So it's keep doing what you do, involve more people in those efforts, make sure that there's a sort of a consistent line between what happens at the top level and what happens at the sharp end. And I think that is not necessarily connected. That's what I see. So there might be very good practices offshore at the sharp end that you might not even be aware of. So it could be learning from good practices and sharing them throughout the organization and with your suppliers. Yeah, I think that the relationship with suppliers, that's something that I'm really worried about, because from my research was on improving the communications for remote operations or integrated operations. And what we saw many times is that people seem to have a very protective attitude to say, well, this is our part of the problem. And there is no part of the problem. The problem will involve the Transoceans and the Halliburtons and the BPs. So I think the collaboration with your suppliers in making sure that people are competent, they do understand the consequences, that they are motivated and up for the job, that definitely needs more improvement, needs more industry-wide collaboration, I think.
Would you say that's the biggest hindrance? Because you've been really polite and you've seen all the speakers tonight and you've been here all day. Would that be the biggest hindrance in reaching our goals of zero risks?
I think so.
Yes.
Because my impression is that there's silos within organizations, often also within parts of organizations, where people do a good job, but other people don't know about that. I was pretty shocked about how few people had read accident reports and were aware of accidents that happened elsewhere. So I think it really needs more sharing, more collaboration across the industry, within a country, but also, I mean, this has been a Danish event, but I think it's a good approach that you have invited people from elsewhere, and so it needs more sharing of good practices.
And we'll tear down silos. That's something you should always do. Yeah. Thank you, Christina. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.